Hi, you're with Rian this morning. How are you all today? We've got three industry professionals with us today, Asha Chidasama, Rohit Das and Nisreen Kashu. And they're going to talk to us about GAP. Asha, I believe you did some kind of research on GAP's position lately. What happened? Could you tell us about it?
Yeah, we definitely did do some research. To get a clear picture of what was happening to GAP, we did some background research, and we had 4 objectives that we focused on. So the first was to analyse a change in consumer perception of the GAP brand, to understand consumer attitudes towards the GAP brand, to evaluate consumer behavioural intentions when shopping at the GAP, and also to analyse consumer behaviour and decision making.
Oh, that was a mouthful.
It was a mouthful, wasn't it?
Now, Ms. Jane, could you run us through the market a little bit? Give me a market overview of the clothing market. What's happening?
Actually, the clothing sector has survived the recession, and the market is forecasted to grow by 10% in the next 5 years. And the UK clothing market is very competitive. There's a lot of brands. Mainly shoppers go to Primark and Asda because of their affordable prices.
Right, Rohit, could you tell me about GAP? Where does GAP fit into all of this?
Well, for anyone that doesn't know GAP, they're a US company and they were incredibly successful over the late 90s. But over the past decade or so, they've come under a lot of scrutiny and they've been underperforming. The perceptions of the company have just slumped, really.
Right, Asha, could you run us through the technical bit? What did you do, the kind of research?
Yeah, sure, I can. Well, the problem seems to be that GAP used to be uber cool, and it's no longer uber cool. It's kind of just cool. So we decided to talk to the customers to find out what was really going wrong. Something seriously wasn't. So we used some common consumer behavioural models. The fishbone model, the means and value chain, one to study the decision-making process when buying a product, one to look at exposure, attention and comprehension of brands, and finally the attitude formation and change 4 quadrant. And the analysis that we got with this, we got it from focus groups and questionnaires.
Right, did you have any kind of interviews as well?
Yeah, we had interviews as well. We gave out questionnaires, and that was for the fishbone.
Right, that's fantastic. We're going to cut to a commercial for about 15 seconds. See you back.
Black magic. Black magic.
And we're back with GAP. Alright, now the models you mentioned earlier, they're all a bit technical. Could you simplify it for our audience here?
Yeah, we have used the mean and value chain, as the name implies. The theory assumes that consumers buy products as a mean to an end, which is a value. So we wanted to understand why do consumers buy GAP products? What is the ultimate end they get from that? And from the research we found that the concrete attributes were its high price, which is a negative thing, and the product hit hard on functional and psychosocial attributes because it gives you, it's of good quality, and it has a good quality and it's reliable. When they use the scarf and the jeans, we learned that from the interviews we have done. But it has no real instrumental value.
Right.
It does not.
Okay. Could you run us through some of the other models Asha mentioned?
Well, yeah, we also took into account exposure, attention and comprehension, which generally take into account the environment and how consumers will react in that environment based on manipulation. So GAP has basically, they've tried in terms of advertising to connect with consumers, but consumers aren't affected by it anymore, they're just not interested, which is a major issue. And we also found out that in terms of exposure, they just don't feel as though they are personally attracted to the brand anymore. They've moved on.
Yeah. Asha, you mentioned something fishy?
Yeah, I did indeed. Yeah. The fishbone model, Ria. Results from that found that GAP lagged well behind H&M and Zara. They're not good for trendy styling, poor for product range, and it's just not seen as cool anymore. They're just not connecting with the people. Attitude formation and change 4 quadrant found that again Zara and H&M favoured more against GAP. People just don't connect, like I said I was saying. It's like a little lost soul. Too casual to be trendy, too classic to be fashionable.
Oh, that's just sad, isn't it? Well, so could you tell me what recommendations do you have? What can GAP do? They're stuck.
Well, Gap can do a lot. It needs to add a little bit of oomph into their marketing strategy. Some va-va-voom, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, we've seen the likes of H&M and Topshop. They host a line of clothing from a fashion designer. Maybe Gap can do something similar, you know. We know they do fantastic scarves and gloves and hats and t-shirts, blah, blah, blah. How about getting a designer to come in and doing a one-off collection? Give it a little pizzazz, you know, a little bit of celebrity sparkle. We all love that kind of thing.
We do, don't we? Nasreen, what do you think?
I think they should actually reinforce the positive perception about the brand. They should actually create an instrumental value, so the brand gives the brand gives some sort of a feeling of attractiveness, sexiness, etc. With that, they need to connect with the consumer, have an actual emotional bond, so they can bridge the gap between the behavior and the attitude.
Right, yeah. So basically, to conclude, we can see that Gap's got a problem. They've lost their connection with their consumers. What they need to do is reposition and then maybe eventually mend the gap. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us today. Have a nice day.